Hey, my name's Theaster. I'm a Chicago-based artist.
My name's Jeanne, and I run a practice here in Chicago. It's an architecture office.
You're working on a lot of different kinds of projects. Tell me what you're up to right now.
Architecture is a profession. It's not just an art. It's a way of making things. It's a way of thinking about things. One of our most famous projects is the Aqua Tower. It's like an 82-story residential mixed-use tower where for the first time we really created space on the outside of the building that was inhabitable. So it's almost like you can be living in the building and on the building and in the city at the same time. So it's things like that that get me excited, pushing the boundaries of where things have been.
When I work with buildings, I'm thinking about them in terms of like, yeah, here are the rules around what can happen in this place. Are those rules conducive to the kind of activity that I want to do? And if they're not, what are the creative ways that I can argue for new policy or new uses for old buildings? On the surface of it, it doesn't look like pushing paint, but I think that pushing policy is as creative, can be as exciting and engaging for me as sawing wood. You know, and that both sawing wood and shifting policy are necessary to get big art projects done. So.
Some of the things that we're interested in right now are, building ideas about nature. Like how can you take wild ecology and bring it through the heart of a city? Because a lot of times, as the city footprint gets bigger and bigger, the people who live in the city, it gets harder and harder to experience nature or go camping. So why not camp in the middle of the city? Like Lincoln Park Zoo, we did this nature boardwalk, and then on the former Meigs Field, we are planning Northerly Island, and that'll be a place where people in the city can literally go camping. That's awesome. It's almost like finding this sweet spot where you can intervene and tweak something and make it happen. Like there's all the ingredients are there, but then it's finding out where to intervene, and it's especially in big projects.
No, it's been really interesting to go from the redevelopment of individual houses to then the restoration of a 36-unit former CHA housing project. There was some real community resistance to its reactivation. That the architecture had not only stigma, but a history of violence, a history of creating trauma in that neighborhood. And so the best thing to do is to kill the thing, to raise the buildings. Right. I actually want to build on the traumatic experience and not erase it. Grab the space, grab the architecture, and say, actually, this space that created trauma has the capacity to be transformed. It's these acts of spatial, social transformation. And in fact, with low-income housing residents and affordable housing residents living with market rate housing residents, artists who, instead of thinking about them with different incomes, they're artists with shared values.
That issue could inform like design and city design.
A traditional developer might say, my job is to build a building and then we let the market take care of the rest. The challenge in that is that there's no intentionality about the cultivation or the preservation of a community. It's just, we've built a new building, the building costs a lot of money to build, therefore we're gonna rent it to the person who can afford the rent. Part of that, the work that I'm attempting to do is to say, in addition to building the building, we have to cultivate the relationships that will program those spaces. I wonder, Jeanne, are architects being taught, in addition to the skill set, the line, the AutoCAD, the Adobe suite, are we being taught to listen?
I think that's a very legitimate question. I mean, I don't think that we're being taught to listen in architecture school, for example.
Maybe. Well, I'm just thinking that maybe we should start a business, and the business would be like translators. It'd be like this group of expert listeners who would do the work of translating cultural need and ambition and desire into kind of architectural speak. how does the desire for safety translate into something besides a really high fence or a really barricaded wall or with small windows? Is there another way to hear safety and then the nuance around culture? Maybe it requires a certain kind of ambitious art and architecture to kind of shift cities, to transform them from struggling moments to more beautiful moments. There's this great idea, like maybe you could use video.
Right, that could be something. I like it. Where would it be shown?
Well, we could shoot it at your office, and then we could put it online, and like.
Yeah, I like it.